Okay, well, welcome to day 2, the end of day 2. You probably noticed there's a lot less footage on the front of this video. I didn't film as much today, and so you're just getting more of me talking, which I know you're super excited about. Most of today's sessions were classes, essentially, that I sat in on, so I'm not going to go over like each individual specific menu option and method that I went through, so it's more of an overview, and I'm just going to kind of share some, I guess, tidbits that I got from today. A lot of less notes, too, because there was no big, heavy keynote. The first session I did this morning was on After Effects and integrating AI generative assets into After Effects. It was mostly some cool demonstrations, stuff that I personally have done a decent amount of, but it was cool to see somebody who's an industry professional, kind of their approach to doing that in terms of generating an asset, not like a video or a picture, but generating something that is specifically just to be a piece of a animation or a title slide. So that was pretty cool. But just some I wrote down like a couple quotes that he had. He was pretty funny. He called these generative softwares AI slop machines, which I thought was funny because, you're mostly getting garbage, so you just have to regenerate until you get something that's good. I like that. He also just used the term microwave quality several times. Where he was like, we're just going for microwave quality today, just because it doesn't matter how it tastes. I just want it fast. I like that. Microwave quality. I'm going to put that in my own verbal Rolodex going forward. Option key plus stretch equals time stretch. Just a key set in After Effects that I was not familiar or have not used. Hold on, there's a crime happening outside. I wrote down squash and stretch After Effects preset, which is in the aescripts.com, which is a website that I already used, but that was one that I wrote down because I want to use it. In the keynote, there was a couple of people. One was a guy I didn't know, but he was a YouTuber who had done a lot of kind of just cool viral type of visual effects. That was interesting. Mark Rober was there, a big YouTuber. I've never been a big Mark Rober watcher, but there's some videos that he was demonstrating that were pretty iconic, like the glitter bomb that he puts on people's Amazon doorsteps, and the squirrel ninja course. Those are huge viral videos that obviously I'm aware of, and he kind of went into explaining why and how those videos came to be. So that was just kind of some fun inside baseball for a YouTube old head like myself. And then there was an interview with James Gunn, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, the latest Superman. And he had some good quotes, and it was an interesting conversation. Then I went into a After Effects tutorial that taught me some interesting workflows, I guess. There were things that I already knew about, but it was kind of interesting to see somebody go through it kind of from a fresh perspective in terms of the ground up. Like, again, most of my software things that I know in terms of editing and in motion effects and stuff come from a combination of me sort of figuring it out and various YouTube tutorials from the countless different sources. So to see a sort of ground up explanation of it, while I wouldn't say I necessarily learned anything new, it was interesting to see the differences that one could achieve those same results. So overall it was interesting, but I'm actually going to come back to that here in a minute. A little fangirl moment for me. So I was standing in line for a drink at Max Sneaks, which is where they demonstrate all of their new beta softwares that they haven't released yet, which I'll get to that as well. Turn around, I see a guy from Epidemic Sound on his badge, because everyone's badge has what the company that they work with. Epidemic Sound is a music licensing software that I have been using for 7 years now. A huge fan of their product. I've used many, many different music licensing softwares, and while Epidemic was kind of the first one that I really started using truly and meaningfully, I have shopped around since then, both through my own personal money and then just companies I've worked for and what they utilize. And I love Epidemic Sound. And through the dailies, I have spent almost every single night of the last decade of my life on Epidemic's website. So just to see somebody with Epidemic Sound who worked there, even though he just worked in, sales or something, that is kind of like the unique thing of this experience, is that you'll just meet somebody who is like an industry professional from a software or a company or something that you have kind of a really niche, close relationship with. I know that sounds silly because it's just a music licensing software, or like music licensing company, but there's a connection there. I don't know how else to describe it. I have spent every night of my life searching music on Epidemic Sound, and I love their service, and just to talk to someone about it. So we connected a little bit. I got his email and whatever, we're going to talk. But so let's get into Max Sneaks, which is, again, all of the software that is in like early development beta, and they kind of give you like a sneak peek at what they're developing, even though it's not finished, and it may never even come to fruition, or it could be 10 years down the road, or it could be out in 6 months. You kind of don't know. Some of the highlights: Motion Map. Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator can now animate based on a prompt. So let me be specific. Adobe Illustrator is a software that you create a graphic in. You draw, it's kind of like Photoshop, but think of like Photoshop instead of for a photo, it's for drawing in a pen. A lot of the 2D graphics that you see are initially designed and developed in Illustrator. So now you can develop like a logo, and you can give a prompt to say, animate this in, and it will move. It has movement. That's completely new. You could get specific, saying stack, like there was a picture like of a burger. Think of a hand-drawn burger, and identified, separated those elements and had them come down and stack. What was impressive, kind of a cool parlor trick. I don't know how I feel in terms of like, is this groundbreaking, but somebody had drawn or created a chessboard, 2D chessboard. Think of like a cartoon overview of a chessboard. And it said, win this chess game in 4 moves. So the prompt, the AI software within this Illustrator was able to identify that it was a chess game. It could identify all the pieces that had been drawn, and then it proceeded to animate based on a certain logic, and the logic here being how the game of chess is played. What are the rules? How would these two teams that are identified, these two sides, interact to create a winning chess move? So that was obviously a big, impressive thing. It is impressive. Clean Take, which is, it is a technology that already exists. I've demonstrated it here on this channel before, where I can take my audio now, has tons of background noise, sounds awful, you can hardly hear me. You put it through this software, it identifies my voice separated from the background noise, and it can produce a really clean vocal track, like narration track, without any of that background noise. I use that a lot recently. It's one of the most impressive recent, for me personally, recent technology developments to visual audio and video that I use all the time. But this new thing called Clean Take was iterating on that. So now, let's say I'm talking here, you can hear the air conditioning in the background, somebody's playing music next door, and there is a train going by outside. It will process that audio and separate all of those separate noises, including my voice, the air conditioner, the train outside, and I forget whatever it was I said elsewhere. We'll separate those all into their own individual tracks, so you can turn them down, mute them, remix them, all kind of in one place. And there's a couple different like minor iterations on that where you can change out music and stuff, but really impressive, kind of based on the technology they already have, but it's just kind of an expansion of that technology. That felt to me, of all of these things demonstrated, the closest one that's like ready to ship, because it felt the most polished. It's already based on a technology that I know is pretty tried and true, and doesn't seem that much of a bigger step, because it's already so impressively able to identify and separate aspects of an audio file into different audio files. So I'm excited to see that one come to the public. Source separation. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry, I have to go back. Source separation was what I just described. Clean Take was an ability to take this voice that I'm saying with now, but now I can go back and I can change the emotion of how I'm saying it. So if I'm like, guys, I had a really bad day. Well, in this editing software, it will identify those words in a text prompt. I can highlight them and rechange the emotion of my voice to say, hey guys, I had a really great day. It will change the sound, and it will also regenerate my mouth to match that sound. So if you don't like the intonation or the emotion of a certain take of someone talking on camera, you can now go back and change that in post. Again, kind of based on some technologies that are already sort of available, but just packaging them all into one really nice dynamic single workflow was really cool. New Depth. So New Depth was a software that has multi-images, I'm reading my notes, multi-images to create single 3D environment, but you can now edit it like a photo. So you may or may not have seen these things. They look like 3D environments that are generated by me. Like if I was taking a picture of the camera, I would take a picture from all these different angles, and the software can compile that and make a 3D rendering of the camera and the space behind it. And this will do that. You have to take a bunch of pictures. It creates a 3D environment, and you can rotate the 3D environment, but you can edit. Like I can change the color of this camera. I can change the color. You can't see any of this, but I can change the color of the hat that's on the table next to the camera, and you can edit this like a photo you would in Photoshop. So the quality of it, I would compare to if you've ever used the 3D Street View in Google Maps. I would say that's the quality of the asset, but you can see this is the early stage for something that I could see in another 2 years being a really impressive replication of the photo in terms of quality, detail, and everything. And to see that they're already playing around with how you can edit that like an image, I think that is going to have implications that are going to be pretty crazy in terms of allowing people to create what you could create in Blender, which is a 3D animation software, or rendering objects in 3D, making that available to people who have the technical knowledge of Photoshop. So that will be pretty cool. I'll talk on something broader about everything that I just talked about here. There was lots of visual prompting. So I see an arc of, right now, the common thing is that you can generate images and video based on a text prompt. But I'm noticing a trend, at least with Adobe, because they know that their clientele is visual thinkers. These are people who create visually, who design visually, who communicate visually. They're using ways where you can create a 3D environment, and you can you give it a prompt. I want a beach with shoes and a chair. But you can use blocks in this software to design the parameters of how big the chair is. Where does that chair sit? And so you're giving the prompt, and rather than just giving it a prompt and AI does its best guess as to what you want, you can give it the prompt, and then you can also give it really specific guidance in a visual space as to how that image or that video is going to actually be designed. And so I just see Adobe taking a step in terms of identifying, like, how do very visual people who are not text prompt editors, like to be a prompt engineer, you have to be relatively language based in terms of how you communicate through written word. So how do you bridge that gap to people who their strength is not communicating through the written word, but rather through visuals and being able to say, I don't know how to explain to this computer that I want this asset there, so I'm just going to move it in a visual space that I understand to show that it'll be there. And so that I see as the trend of where they're trying to change the current like AI generative workflow or landscape, whatever. I want to end because this is likely my last day. We leave out pretty early tomorrow, so I don't think I'm actually going to attend any morning sessions. But I just want to comment that I think what was most enlightening for me at this whole event, when I think of the last 2 days and everything that I attended, is that I think I have deeply underestimated what it takes to get into video and editing and special effects or visual effects. And I have to say this was a big confidence boost for me. Frankly, I'll just say it outright. I went to a lot of advanced classes today. I sat next to people who were high industry professionals above me, and I watched them struggle with things that I felt very comfortable in. And between that and the certification that I got, as well as another certification that is a story for another day that's coming down the road for me to complete that into a deeper certification, it was a good confidence boost to think, you know what, maybe where I sit as a benchmark to the entire industry population of people who do what I do, I sit pretty comfortably. So, yeah, this was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun the last few days. I'm definitely ready to go home. I'm very tired. The time change has messed me up. It's just been it's like going to school for big, long days, which my brain is no longer used to. But I'm extremely excited to go back home, see the family, obviously, numero uno, but also to play around with a lot of these concepts and to think about where my art and my skill and my passions take me and how I can continue to expand in a way that's meaningful and inspiring and exciting. And I feel like this week was a great catalyst for that. So, thank you.